Welcome back to Welbeck Junction, and we left the last episode with the room built and the base units in. So what I'm going to do now is sort of take a step forward, but at the same time show you what was happening whilst the base units were going in. The focus of this one is the inclines and declines in and out of the fiddle yard. So I did this at the same time as I was doing the base units, and the simple reason was that I couldn't really do one without the other one, but it made more sense to split them up into two separate videos to show you. So here's a view of the garage, baseboard on the right with the Woodland Scenics risers on it, and at the back what you can see there is a batten. Now that batten is fixed at exactly the same height as the exit of the fiddle yard. What that's going to allow me to do, and I'll just zoom in on that, is have a dead straight and level base to be able to start the inclines off at. So you can see there I can run the incline straight off of that and around, and I'm going to go for 3% inclines. Now I weighed up the idea of just cutting some ply and using the level and grading it myself, but in all honesty it was a lot easier just to buy the Woodland Scenics inclines, 3 degrees, stick a straight batten around the wall and move it on from there. Here you can see I have cut a triangular corner section which will bridge the gap between the batten on the far wall and the batten that runs down the side. And here it is in place, so that will give me a 4th radius bend around that corner and then link into the batten which is not fitted yet along the side. There is the batten fitted, so that comes off the corner fillet and runs all the way down to the entrance to the garage door. And there it is with the Woodland Scenics 3-degree risers loosely placed on top of it to make sure I'd done my calculations right and I knew where it was going to reach the baseboard height. So I put a supporting leg in the centre there. It is fixed and glued to the wall, but again it's just making sure, and you can see the risers there just placed and loosely running around the back. So coming out of the fiddle yard, climbing at 3 degrees, that is a 4th radius bend, straightening up and then continuing the climb all the way up to where it will meet the baseboard, and the base units there are back in position against the wall. Dropping in the baseboard from the fiddle yard, there's the exit. I've now glued this down, so this is all glued in place all the way round and running up again to the baseboard height. Same process on the other side. This is a shorter section because the door's closer to the wall of the garage, but that's all glued. So with the incline glued, it was time to place the other baseboard in front of the final element of the incline that you can see there. Got the other baseboard on the far side as well, just to again double check my levels, and where the gap is in the Woodland Scenics risers here, you can see I've marked in pencil where I feel they're going to reach, and this is where I'm considering putting the crossover so that they can both continue to climb up to the higher running board level. Did contemplate putting a short crossover in, but that would be ridiculous. I'm going to go for the longer one, and then the track will climb and then cut across onto the baseboard and then climb again. I'm going to have to do some tweaking to the baseboard to allow that to fit, but that is the plan thus far. So I have added a section to the rear of the baseboard which will allow the two incline risers to meet it perfectly at the top, and also just start curving in towards where the crossover is. While all that's going on, I've glued down the cork all the way up the inclines and clamped it just to make sure it's got a good adhesion. Again, use Woodland Scenics glue for that, With that in place and glued and left to dry overnight, I have started laying the DCC Concepts power base. So in this instance, I'm like laying it with some just neat PVA glue and a brush, a slow methodical process, laid some track roughly where I wanted it, made sure that the fourth degree radius bend was in the right place, marked around the edge of that with a Sharpie, and then I'm following the line of the track with the power base all the way up the incline from the fiddle yard. Not the quickest process in the world, and I'm not saying I'm going to need the power base, because in the testing I've done, everything's gone up there fine without actually needing any additional traction. But I'm thinking if I put it in now and I get something and I really like it and it is struggling to go up that incline, at least I have got the provision in place to be able to put some magnets on it and use the power base. If I didn't do it and that happened, I think I'd regret it. So yeah, getting the power base in, once the power base is in, and get some track down. Power base down, I have now glued the flex track on. So Code 100 Pico flex track all the way up the incline to the top of the incline just before where the crossover is going to be mounted. With the track glued all the way up the incline, it's then time to fix the last section of the flexi track to the crossover. So the crossover's fitted here, powered with the droppers, and I am using the cheap method of a couple of dabs of super glue on the base of the track, which will just hold it down onto the power base firmly enough for me to be happy to then move on to the next stage. So this took a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of fettling, but the end result was I had a really smooth transition from the incline up and then into the crossover. From a power district point of view, the crossover is a separate power supply to the incline. So the incline's coming from both sides, stop, and the crossover is then powered from the from a different part of the power bus, and we'll come back to that in a later episode. Once that was in, it was then time to run the power around the incline. So from the right hand side there, you've got a couple of bus wires feeding into some connector blocks, and each pair of connector blocks then have a dropper coming in them from above, and I've used some cable clips glued to the batten around the base to carry the bus wire. Not the tidiest bit of wiring I've ever done, but it's going to be hidden behind the cabinets, and it is neat enough not to get caught by anything. So I will, I'll go with it. Would I use those little snap connector blocks again? Probably not. They're not the best bits of kit in the world, and they're a little bit fiddly, but they work and they carry the power fine. The continuity is good. You can see there I've brought the dropper wires up through the batten, up through a gap in the incline risers, through the cork, and then soldered to the track. Slightly different view this time from the garage door end. So the incline rises at its highest, down there into the power distribution snap blocks, not quite sure what they're called, and you can just see the power bus running there tidally down the batten, and the base units will then get pushed up against this batten. Again, the incline is on its own power district, and we'll cover power districts and how the whole lot's powered in a later episode. But I think that's it for now, so we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.